Hello, welcome back to our channel. Lesson 1. The Quiet Decision. There is a moment many adults never talk about. It happens late at night after work, after the children are asleep, after the noise of the day finally becomes quiet. At that moment, a person looks at their life and whispers, "Maybe I can still learn English." That small sentence may sound simple, but for millions of adults across America and around the world, it feels heavy. Some people are afraid. Some feel embarrassed. Others think they waited too long. But tonight, this documentary begins with one powerful truth. Your age is not the end of your learning story. Imagine a man named Daniel. He works long hours at a repair shop in a small rural town. Every day he hears English conversations around him, but he answers with only a few words. He understands more than he speaks. Deep inside, he wants confidence. He wants to tell stories. He wants to feel free when he speaks. One evening, he sits in his truck outside his home and makes a quiet promise to himself. "I will start." That promise changes everything. Learning English as an adult is not about perfection. It is about courage. Adults carry responsibilities, memories, disappointments, and pressure. Yet adults also carry strength. They understand hard work. They understand sacrifice. And that strength can become fuel for learning. Tonight, this journey starts with one simple step: believing that a new beginning is still possible. Lesson 2. The weight adults carry children. Learn languages in classrooms filled with encouragement. Adults often learn languages while carrying heavy emotional weight. Some adults work 2 jobs. Some raise families. Some feel tired before the learning even begins. Others remember painful experiences from school when teachers made them feel small or slow. Those memories stay alive for years. Maria lives in a busy city apartment with her 2 daughters. She cleans offices at night and sleeps only a few hours before starting another day. Every time she hears fast English conversations on the train, she feels invisible. She understands enough to survive, but not enough to express her real personality. People see her silence and assume she has nothing to say. But inside her mind is wisdom, humor, intelligence, and dreams. One afternoon, Maria hears her daughter reading English out loud at the kitchen table. The child struggles with a word, laughs, then tries again. Maria watches carefully. The little girl is not ashamed of mistakes. She simply continues. That moment touches Maria deeply. She realizes adults often fear mistakes more than children do. Fear can stop learning before learning even starts. Many adults believe they must sound perfect immediately. But language does not grow in perfection. Language grows in repetition, patience, and emotional connection. Your struggles do not disqualify you from learning English. In many ways, your struggles prepare you for it. Every difficult day has already trained your mind to survive challenges. Now that same strength can help you grow. Lesson 3. Why English feels emotional. English is not only vocabulary and grammar. For adults, English becomes emotional because language touches identity. When you cannot fully express your thoughts, it can feel like the world only sees half of you. Adults often know exactly what they want to say in their native language. But English creates a wall between their mind and their voice. James moved to America years ago. He understands instructions at work, but during meetings, he stays silent. His co-workers laugh together during conversations he cannot follow completely. Every day he tells himself, "Maybe tomorrow I will speak more." But tomorrow keeps moving further away. One evening, James visits a grocery store after work. The checkout counter, the cashier asks a simple question. James misunderstands it and answers incorrectly. The cashier repeats the question slowly. People in line begin waiting impatiently. James feels heat rising in his face. That small moment follows him home. Many adults carry similar memories. Maybe someone laughed at your pronunciation. Maybe you forgot words during an important conversation. Maybe you stayed silent because speaking felt too risky. Those experiences create emotional scars. But here is something important. Emotional pain can also become emotional power. Adults who learn English later in life often become stronger communicators because they understand struggle. They listen carefully. They notice details. They value every improvement. You are not weak because English feels emotional. You are human, and every human voice deserves the chance to grow louder. Lesson 4. The myth about aged people often repeat the same sentence. Children learn languages faster. After hearing this many times, adults begin believing they missed their opportunity. But that belief is incomplete. Children may learn naturally through constant exposure. But adults possess advantages children do not have. Adults understand discipline. Adults understand purpose. Adults understand why communication matters. A child studies because school requires it. An adult studies because life requires it. That emotional motivation creates powerful learning energy. In a small farming community, an older man named Robert decides to learn English at age 58. At first, people around him doubt his decision. Some smile politely. Others quietly assume he will quit. Robert notices their reactions, but he keeps going. Every morning before sunrise, he listens to English podcasts while preparing for work. During lunch breaks, he practices short sentences. At night, he reads children's books out loud because simple language helps build confidence. His progress is slow at first, but slowly his ears begin recognizing patterns. After 1 year, Robert speaks differently. Not perfectly, but confidently. He jokes with coworkers. He asks questions without fear. He even helps newer workers understand instructions. Age did not stop Robert. Fear almost did. The human brain continues learning throughout life. Adults build language differently than children, but different does not mean impossible. Some adults actually learn faster because they connect language with real-life experiences. You are not too old to begin. You are simply beginning from a different chapter. Lesson 5. Learning in small moments. Many adults imagine language learning as something huge and complicated. They picture giant textbooks, long classes, and endless grammar rules. Because the task feels overwhelming, they delay starting. But real language growth often happens in very small moments. A mother practices English while cooking dinner. A truck driver repeats phrases during long highway drives. A factory worker listens to English radio on the way home. A grandmother labels objects around the house with English words. Small moments create powerful change when repeated consistently. Kevin works construction in a growing city. He once believed he needed perfect study conditions before learning English. He wanted more free time, more money, and less stress. But one evening, he realized perfect conditions never arrive. So Kevin changed his strategy. Instead of waiting for large study sessions, he started using tiny pieces of time. 5 minutes during breakfast, 10 minutes during lunch, 15 minutes before bed. At first, the improvement seemed invisible. But after several months, he noticed something surprising. English words appeared faster in his mind. Consistency matters more than intensity. Adults sometimes quit because they expect dramatic results immediately. But language learning behaves like planting seeds. For a long time, nothing seems visible above the ground. Then one day, growth appears. Your small daily effort is not useless. Every repeated sentence trains your brain. Every listening practice sharpens your ears. Every mistake teaches your mouth new movements. Big transformation often begins with tiny habits repeated quietly. Lesson 6. The fear of speaking. For many adults, speaking English feels more frightening than reading or listening. Speaking is public. Speaking exposes mistakes immediately. When adults speak, they risk embarrassment, rejection, or judgment. Linda avoided speaking English for almost 3 years after moving to America. At restaurants, she pointed at menus instead of ordering confidently. At stores, she used short answers to avoid conversations. Even when she understood people, fear controlled her voice. One rainy afternoon, Linda entered a coffee shop near her apartment. Usually she pointed silently at the menu, but this time the young cashier smiled warmly and asked, "How's your day going?" Linda froze. Her mind knew words, but fear blocked them. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of pretending not to understand, Linda answered slowly, "My day is okay. I am tired from work." Her grammar was imperfect, but the cashier understood completely. That short conversation lasted less than 1 minute. But Linda walked home, feeling different. She realized communication matters more than perfection. Adults often wait too long before speaking because they believe they must first master grammar. But language improves through use. Babies do not wait for perfect grammar before speaking. They learn by trying. Speaking English is not a performance. It is a process. Every conversation becomes practice. Every mistake becomes training. Every uncomfortable moment builds future confidence. Fear may still appear tomorrow, but courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is speaking anyway. Lesson 7. Rural dreams, big voices. In quiet rural towns, opportunities to practice English may feel limited. Some learners live far from language schools or large communities. Internet connections may be weak. Resources may be few. Because of this, many rural learners feel forgotten. But powerful learning can happen anywhere. Ethan lives in a farming area surrounded by open fields and long roads. Most days are physically exhausting. By evening, he feels mentally drained. Yet he dreams about speaking English fluently enough to apply for better opportunities. At first, Ethan believes city learners have advantages he can never match. They hear more English daily. They meet more people. They attend more classes. But slowly, Ethan discovers something important. Determination can create opportunity. He begins recording himself speaking simple English sentences on his phone. He listens to American conversations online while repairing equipment. He practices pronunciation while driving tractors across wide, empty fields. Months later, Ethan notices major improvement. His accent becomes clearer. His confidence grows. Most importantly, he stops comparing his journey to others. Learning English is not about where you live. It is about whether you continue. Many rural learners develop incredible listening focus because they study independently. They become creative problem solvers. They learn discipline without constant supervision. Your environment may influence your journey, but it does not decide your future. Whether you live in a crowded city apartment or a quiet country road, Your voice still deserves growth. And sometimes the strongest voices rise from the quietest places. Lesson 8. The invisible progress. One of the hardest parts of learning English as an adult is that progress often feels invisible. Day after day, you study words, practice listening, and repeat phrases. Yet your improvement seems slow. This frustration causes many adults to quit too early. Angela almost stopped learning several times. She worked at a grocery store and practiced English every night after work. But after 6 months, she still struggled during conversations. She told herself, "Maybe I am not smart enough." Then one morning, something surprising happened. A customer asked her a complicated question about a product location. Without translating in her mind, Angela answered naturally in English. The conversation lasted almost 2 minutes. After the customer left, Angela stood silently for a moment. She realized her brain had changed slowly without her noticing. Language learning often works like sunrise. You do not see darkness disappear second by second. But eventually, the entire sky looks different. Adults sometimes focus too much on what they still cannot do. Instead, notice the small victories. Maybe you understand songs better now. Maybe movies sound clearer. Maybe reading feels easier. Maybe fear decreases slightly. These small signs matter. Progress is not always dramatic. Sometimes progress is simply feeling less afraid than before. Sometimes progress is understanding one more sentence than yesterday. Do not quit because growth feels invisible. Invisible growth is still growth. Your mind is building connections every single day, even when results arrive quietly. Lesson 9. The power of listening. Many adults try to learn English by memorizing grammar rules first. Grammar matters, but listening creates the foundation of natural speech. Before children speak clearly, they spend years listening. Adults often underestimate how powerful listening can be. Carlos drove delivery trucks through busy city streets for 10 hours every day. Instead of listening only to music, he started playing English conversations during work. At first, most sentences sounded too fast. He understood only small pieces. But Carlos continued listening every day. After several months, his ears began recognizing patterns automatically. Common expressions sounded familiar. Pronunciation became easier to understand. Even his own speaking improved because his brain stored natural rhythms. Listening trains more than vocabulary. Listening trains emotion, tone, speed, and confidence. When adults hear natural American English repeatedly, their minds slowly absorb sentence structure without constant translation. This process takes patience. Some days you may understand only 10%. Other days, you may understand 50%. Keep listening anyway. The goal is not understanding every word immediately. The goal is building familiarity. Imagine your brain as a garden. Every English sentence you hear becomes a seed. Some seeds grow quickly, others need more time. But if you continue watering the garden with daily listening, growth becomes unavoidable. The English language should become part of your environment, not just part of your study time. The more your ears become comfortable with English, the more your voice will follow. Lesson 10. Adults learn through emotion. Children often learn because adults guide them. Adults learn because emotions push them. Maybe you want a better career. Maybe you want independence. Maybe you want to help your children with homework. Maybe you simply want confidence. Emotion creates momentum. Tina worked in a hospital cafeteria for years. She understood basic English, but deeper conversations frightened her. One day, her young son asked her for help with schoolwork written in English. Tina tried helping him, but she struggled. That night, she cried quietly in the kitchen after everyone slept. Not because she was weak, because she loved her son deeply. The next morning, Tina began studying seriously. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. Love became her motivation. Adults who connect English learning with personal emotion often continue longer than those studying only for tests. Emotional goals create deeper commitment. Maybe your reason is different from Tina's. Maybe you want to travel confidently. Maybe you want to express your true personality. Maybe you are tired of feeling silent. Your reason matters. Whenever learning feels difficult, remember why you started. Your emotional connection can carry you through frustration, exhaustion, and doubt. English is not only a subject. For many adults, English becomes a bridge toward dignity, opportunity, and self-expression. And powerful bridges are built one strong piece at a time. Lesson 11. Mistakes are proof of movement. Adults often treat mistakes like evidence of failure. But mistakes are actually evidence of movement. People who never practice rarely make mistakes because they remain silent. Jordan once avoided speaking English at work because he feared embarrassment. During meetings, he memorized short, safe phrases. Okay. Yes. I understand. Those words protected him from mistakes, but they also trapped his growth. One afternoon, his manager asked him to explain a problem with equipment. Jordan tried speaking more freely. His grammar became confused. He mixed verb tenses. Some co-workers looked uncertain. Jordan felt embarrassed immediately. But later that evening, something important happened. A co-worker approached him privately and said, "Your English is improving. Keep talking." That encouragement changed Jordan's mindset. Learning English requires visible effort. Visible effort creates visible mistakes. Think about athletes. When athletes train, they sweat, fall, and struggle. Nobody expects perfection during practice. Language learning works the same way. Your mistakes are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that your brain is stretching into new territory. Every incorrect sentence teaches structure. Every pronunciation problem trains your mouth differently. Every awkward conversation builds resilience. Do not fear mistakes so much that you protect yourself from growth. The goal is not sounding perfect immediately. The goal is becoming braver every time you speak. Lesson 12. A new voice is being built. Right now, even if you feel uncertain, something important is happening inside your mind. A new voice is being built. Every English word you learn becomes part of that voice. Every conversation shapes it further. Adults sometimes believe fluency appears suddenly one magical day. But fluency usually grows quietly through thousands of ordinary moments. Nora worked as a caregiver for elderly patients. For years, she spoke very little English outside necessary instructions. But she listened carefully to everyone around her. One winter evening, an elderly patient began sharing emotional stories about his life. Normally, Nora would smile politely without saying much. But this time, she responded naturally, not perfectly, but warmly. For almost 30 minutes, they talked. When Nora drove home that night, she realized something beautiful. English no longer felt like a foreign wall. It felt like a tool for human connection. That is the true purpose of language. Not perfection, connection. Your English journey is not only about vocabulary lists or grammar exercises. It is about building a stronger bridge between your inner world and the people around you. Some days progress will feel slow. Some days motivation will disappear. But remember this: every time you continue despite difficulty, your future voice becomes stronger. And one day, without realizing exactly when it happened, you will begin expressing thoughts that once stayed trapped silently inside you. That future is closer than you think. Lesson 13. The day confidence arrives quietly. Most adults expect confidence to arrive like a dramatic movie scene. They imagine one perfect conversation where suddenly fear disappears forever. But real confidence usually arrives quietly. It appears during ordinary moments. Samuel worked at a small auto parts store outside the city. For years, he depended on co-workers to help customers when conversations became complicated. He hated feeling dependent, but fear controlled him. Every night after work, Samuel practiced English while sitting alone in his kitchen. He repeated common customer questions. He listened to American speakers online. Some evenings, he felt hopeful. Other evenings, he felt exhausted. Then one afternoon, the store became extremely busy. Customers filled every aisle. A man approached Samuel asking detailed questions about engine parts. Normally, Samuel would call another employee, but this time, he stayed. The conversation lasted several minutes. Samuel explained product differences, answered questions, and even joked once. His grammar was not perfect, but communication happened naturally. After the customer left, Samuel noticed something surprising. He had forgotten to be afraid. That is how confidence often grows. Not through dramatic transformation, but through repeated survival of uncomfortable situations. Adults sometimes wait for fear to disappear before acting. But confidence usually comes after action, not before it. Every conversation you survive teaches your brain an important lesson. You are more capable than you believed. Lesson 14. English and self-respect. For many adults, learning English becomes connected to self-respect. When people cannot communicate fully, they sometimes feel invisible or underestimated. Others may speak for them, interrupt them, or assume they lack intelligence. But language ability does not measure human value. A woman named Patricia cleaned hotel rooms for nearly 10 years. She understood much more English than people realized, but she rarely spoke because she feared mistakes. Guests often ignored her presence completely. One morning, a tourist asked Patricia for directions inside the hotel. Usually, Patricia would answer with short phrases. But this time she explained carefully and confidently. The tourist smiled warmly and replied, "You explain very clearly." Those 4 words stayed with Patricia all day. Sometimes adults learning English do not only need vocabulary, they need restoration of confidence. Language learning can heal emotional wounds created by years of silence. As your English improves, you may notice changes beyond communication. You stand differently. You participate more. You avoid fewer situations. You begin trusting your voice again. This journey is not about becoming another person. It is about allowing the real person inside you to become visible. Your thoughts matter. Your stories matter. Your experiences matter. English simply becomes another tool helping the world hear what already existed inside you all along. Lesson 15. Why adults learn slower sometimes. Many adults compare themselves to younger learners and feel discouraged. But adult life contains challenges children rarely face. Adults carry stress. Bills, work schedules, family responsibilities, exhaustion, and emotional pressure compete for mental energy every day. After working long hours, studying English can feel impossible. Marcus drove buses through crowded city streets from early morning until evening. By the time he returned home, his mind felt completely drained. He wanted to improve his English, but concentration disappeared quickly at night. At first, Marcus blamed himself. He thought his slow progress meant he lacked intelligence. But slowly, he understood something important. He was not learning slowly because he was incapable. He was learning while carrying the weight of adulthood. That difference matters. Adults often expect themselves to perform like full-time students while balancing full-time responsibilities. That expectation creates unnecessary guilt. Instead of criticizing yourself constantly, recognize your effort honestly. If you study English after difficult workdays, you are already demonstrating remarkable discipline. Learning while tired still counts. Practicing for 10 minutes still counts. Trying again after frustration still counts. Your journey may move differently than someone else's, but slower progress does not equal failure. Sometimes adults are climbing mountains while also carrying responsibilities on their backs, and the fact that you continue climbing anyway reveals extraordinary strength. Lesson 16. Building an English environment. One powerful secret successful adult learners discover is this: English must become part of daily life, not only part of study time. Many adults study intensely for short periods, then completely disconnect from English afterward. This slows progress because the brain forgets unfamiliar patterns quickly. Olivia worked in a bakery in a quiet suburban neighborhood. She attended English classes twice a week, but outside class she returned completely to her native language. Months passed with little improvement. Then her teacher gave simple advice: bring English into your environment. Olivia started changing small habits. She listened to English radio while baking at home. She changed her phone settings into English. She watched simple American interviews during breakfast. At first, these changes felt uncomfortable. But after several weeks, English stopped feeling like a school subject and started feeling like part of real life. That shift accelerated her learning dramatically. Your brain learns through repeated exposure. The more naturally English surrounds your daily routine, the more familiar it becomes. You do not need expensive programs to create an English environment. Simple actions matter. Read signs in English. Repeat sentences from movies. Describe your day aloud. Listen during commutes. Small exposure repeated consistently creates transformation over time. Language grows stronger when it becomes woven into ordinary life. And ordinary life provides more learning opportunities than most adults realize. Lesson 17. The courage to sound different. Many adults fear speaking English because they worry about their accent. They believe sounding different will cause judgment. But having an accent is not weakness. An accent is evidence of experience. Miguel once avoided long conversations because he hated hearing his pronunciation. Every time he spoke English, he imagined people silently criticizing him. One evening, Miguel attended a community event where people from many backgrounds gathered together. During conversations, he noticed something surprising. Almost everyone had an accent. Different rhythms, different pronunciations, different speech patterns. Yet communication still happened beautifully. That realization changed his perspective forever. Clear communication matters far more than sounding identical to native speakers. In America, millions of people speak English with accents every single day. Hospitals, schools, businesses, restaurants, and neighborhoods operate through conversations between people with different voices. Your accent tells a story about your journey. You can absolutely improve pronunciation for clarity, but do not hate your voice while learning. Adults often become trapped chasing impossible perfection instead of meaningful communication. The goal is not erasing who you are. The goal is expanding your ability to connect with others. Speak proudly. Speak patiently. Speak bravely. Because every time you continue speaking despite insecurity, your confidence becomes stronger than your fear. Lesson 18. Motivation changes shape. At the beginning of an English journey, motivation often feels exciting. Adults imagine future opportunities and dramatic improvement. But after several months, excitement sometimes fades. This is normal. Long-term learning cannot depend only on emotional excitement. Rebecca experienced this during her second year studying English. At first, she practiced every day enthusiastically. She watched videos, memorized vocabulary, and repeated phrases constantly. But eventually, progress slowed. Some days she felt bored. Other days she felt frustrated. She started wondering if continuing was worth the effort. Then one evening, Rebecca realized something important. Discipline must continue when motivation feels weak. Successful adult learners are not motivated every day. They simply continue anyway. Think about people who train for marathons. They do not wake up excited every single morning. But they understand consistency creates results impossible to achieve through temporary emotion alone. English learning works the same way. Some days your practice will feel powerful. Other days it will feel ordinary. Continue both days. The adults who eventually become confident English speakers are usually not the most talented. They are the ones who refuse to disappear during difficult seasons. Temporary discouragement does not mean your dream is ending. It simply means you are traveling through the middle of a long journey. And meaningful journeys always require endurance. Lesson 19. Learning to think in English. Many adults translate every sentence from their native language into English before speaking. This process feels slow and exhausting. But over time, something incredible can happen. Your brain can begin thinking directly in English. Hannah noticed this unexpectedly one morning while walking through a grocery store. She looked at apples and thought automatically, "These look fresh today." The thought appeared in English naturally. She stopped walking for a moment because the experience surprised her deeply. That small mental shift represented enormous progress. Thinking in English develops gradually through repeated exposure and daily practice. At first, your brain depends heavily on translation because English feels unfamiliar. But eventually, common phrases become automatic. This process cannot be rushed aggressively. It grows through patience. One helpful strategy is describing simple daily actions in English. I am making coffee. I need to buy groceries. The weather feels cold today. These tiny internal conversations train your brain to build direct English connections without constant translation. At first, your sentences may feel simple. That is completely okay. Simple thinking creates stronger foundations. Fluency does not begin with complicated speeches. It begins with small thoughts repeated consistently. Every time you think even one sentence directly in English, your brain becomes slightly more comfortable living inside the language. And comfort creates speed. Lesson 20. The emotional power of understanding. One beautiful moment arrives during every English journey. It happens when you suddenly understand something without effort. Maybe it is a movie scene. Maybe it is a joke. Maybe it is a song lyric. Maybe it is a fast conversation once impossible to follow. Those moments feel emotional because they reveal invisible growth. David experienced this while watching television after work. Months earlier, English dialogue sounded like noise moving too quickly. He depended completely on subtitles. But one evening, he realized he had followed an entire conversation naturally, without translating, without pausing, without panic. He smiled quietly to himself because the moment felt personal. Adults often underestimate how meaningful comprehension can feel. Understanding language creates belonging. Suddenly, the world around you becomes more open. Signs become clearer. Conversations become less intimidating. Humor becomes accessible. Isolation decreases. Every new piece of understanding expands your freedom slightly. This is why persistence matters. The difficult days eventually create breakthrough moments impossible to experience if you quit too early. Your brain is constantly building invisible pathways. One day, those pathways connect unexpectedly, and comprehension becomes smoother. Never underestimate the emotional importance of finally understanding a world that once sounded closed to you. Because understanding changes not only language ability, it changes confidence, identity, and possibility. Lesson 21. Family can become fuel. Many adults begin learning English because of family. Love often becomes stronger motivation than ambition. Parents want to help children with homework. Grandparents want deeper conversations with younger generations. Spouses want confidence in public situations. Family creates emotional purpose. Leonard worked night shifts at a warehouse while raising 2 young boys. He often felt embarrassed during school meetings because other parents spoke confidently in English while he stayed mostly silent. One afternoon, his oldest son asked, "Dad, why don't you talk more at school?" The question hurt deeply, not because Leonard lacked intelligence, because he wanted his children to see confidence in him. That evening, he decided to change his future. He began practicing English every single day, even when exhausted. Months later, Leonard attended another school event. This time he introduced himself confidently to teachers and parents. His sentences were imperfect, but his courage was visible. His son watched proudly. Sometimes adults forget that children notice effort more than perfection. Your willingness to keep learning teaches powerful lessons about resilience, humility, and growth. Family support can transform difficult learning seasons into meaningful missions. Whenever frustration appears, remember the people connected to your journey. Love gives exhausted people extraordinary strength. And sometimes learning English becomes more than personal improvement. Sometimes it becomes a gift passed forward to future generations. Lesson 22. Comparing yourself can destroy progress. One dangerous habit destroys confidence for many adult learners. Comparison. Adults compare accents, vocabulary, grammar, and speaking speed constantly. Social media makes this even worse because people often show only their best moments online. Elaine joined an English class at a local community center. During discussions, one student spoke very fluently. Elaine immediately felt discouraged. She thought, "I will never sound like that." For weeks, comparison damaged her motivation. You are seeing someone else's middle chapter and comparing it to your beginning. Those words changed Elaine's mindset. Every learner has different experiences, education levels, opportunities, schedules, and emotional struggles. Comparing journeys unfairly ignores these differences completely. Your only meaningful comparison is with your previous self. Can you understand more now than before? Can you speak with slightly less fear? Can you recognize more words? Those improvements matter. Language learning is deeply personal. Some people progress quickly in speaking, others become strong listeners first. Some learners need more repetition, others need more confidence. Different paths still lead forward. Do not waste emotional energy measuring your progress against strangers. Focus on consistent movement. The person you were 6 months ago should inspire you more than the person sitting beside you, because your journey belongs uniquely to you. Lesson 23. Rest is part of learning. Many adults push themselves too hard while learning English. They study intensely for long periods without rest, then become mentally exhausted. But the brain needs recovery. Rest is not laziness. Rest is part of growth. Derek spent months forcing himself to study several hours every night after physically demanding workdays. At first, he felt productive, but eventually, his concentration weakened. He became frustrated easily and started forgetting vocabulary. One weekend, Derek decided not to study at all. Instead, he relaxed and watched simple English movies for enjoyment. Something surprising happened. The following week, his mind felt clearer. His listening improved. His motivation returned. The human brain strengthens learning gradually over time. Constant pressure without recovery can actually reduce effectiveness. Adults often carry guilt whenever they rest because they feel behind already. But sustainable progress requires balance. Some days your brain needs intense focus. Other days it needs lighter exposure. Healthy learning includes both effort and recovery. Do not punish yourself endlessly for being human. You are balancing adult responsibilities while building a new language. That requires enormous mental energy. Respect your limits without surrendering your goals. A rested mind learns more effectively than an exhausted mind filled with self-criticism. Long journeys are completed through sustainable rhythm, not constant emotional emergency. And sustainable rhythm keeps dreams alive longer. Lesson 24. The first real conversation. Every adult learner remembers certain conversations forever. Especially the first conversation that feels truly real, not rehearsed, not memorized, real. Sophia experienced this while waiting at a bus stop during winter. An older woman beside her started talking casually about the weather. Normally, Sophia would answer briefly and end conversations quickly. But this time, something different happened. The conversation continued naturally. They discussed cold mornings, busy schedules, favorite foods, and family traditions. Sophia understood most of the discussion without panic. When the bus arrived, the woman smiled and said, "It was nice talking with you." Sophia sat quietly during the ride home, feeling emotional. For the first time, English had created connection instead of fear. That is why language matters. Human beings are built for communication. When adults regain the ability to express personality, humor, warmth, and emotion in English, confidence expands beyond vocabulary. You begin participating more fully in life around you. These moments often arrive unexpectedly. One day you suddenly realize conversations feel less like survival and more like interaction. That transition changes everything. Keep practicing. Keep listening. Keep speaking. Because somewhere in your future waits a conversation that will remind you exactly why you refuse to quit. And that conversation may arrive sooner than you imagine. Lesson 25. When English stops feeling foreign. At the beginning of the journey, English often feels distant. The sounds seem unfamiliar. The sentences move too quickly. Even simple conversations can feel exhausting. But little by little, something remarkable happens. English begins feeling less foreign. Not because the language changes, because you change. Victor noticed this during an ordinary morning at work. Co-workers were talking nearby while preparing equipment. Months earlier, their conversations sounded like fast noise. But now Victor understood pieces naturally without concentrating intensely. He laughed at a joke before translating it. That small moment surprised him deeply. Language becomes easier when the brain stops treating it like danger. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity creates comfort. Adults often expect dramatic transformation overnight, but most progress happens quietly through exposure, repeated thousands of times. Every podcast you hear matters. Every sentence you repeat matters. Every awkward conversation matters. Your mind is adapting constantly. One important truth many learners forget is this: confusion at the beginning is normal. No human starts understanding a language immediately. The discomfort you feel today is temporary. Eventually, your ears recognize patterns automatically. Your mouth responds faster. Your thoughts move more smoothly. And one day, you suddenly realize English no longer feels like a wall. It feels like part of your world. Lesson 26. Adults carry hidden strength. Adults sometimes focus too much on their disadvantages while forgetting their hidden strengths. Children may have flexible schedules and fewer fears, but adults possess life experience. That experience matters. Adults understand responsibility. Adults understand persistence. Adults understand emotional pain. Those qualities create powerful learners. Rachel worked in a nursing home while studying English during late evenings. Some nights she felt completely exhausted. But she kept practicing because adulthood had already taught her something important. Important goals require endurance. Children often quit difficult activities quickly because they lack long-term perspective. Adults, however, have survived heartbreak, financial pressure, disappointment, and sacrifice. That resilience becomes valuable during language learning. Every difficult season in your life has trained you mentally for persistence. Do not underestimate the strength you already carry. The same determination that helped you survive hard years can help you learn English. Sometimes adult learners wrongly believe they are weak because progress feels slow. But continuing despite exhaustion reveals incredible discipline. You are not beginning this journey empty-handed. You are bringing years of experience, wisdom, and emotional endurance with you. Those qualities may not appear inside grammar books, but they matter deeply. Because language learning is not only intellectual, it is emotional, and emotionally strong people can accomplish extraordinary growth over time. Lesson 27. The danger of shame. Shame silently destroys many learning journeys. Some adults feel ashamed of their pronunciation. Others feel ashamed of slow progress. Some feel embarrassed asking questions. Shame convinces people to hide instead of practice. Naomi experienced this during her first English class at a local center. When the teacher asked students to read aloud, Naomi avoided eye contact immediately. Her heart raced. She feared sounding foolish. When her turn arrived, she read quietly with several mistakes. A few students looked toward her, and Naomi felt deeply embarrassed. That evening, she considered never returning. But the next class, something unexpected happened. Another student struggled even more openly while smiling through mistakes. The room stayed supportive and patient. Naomi realized everyone carried fear. No learner enters class already fluent. Learning requires vulnerability. You cannot improve pronunciation without speaking. You cannot strengthen listening without confusion. You cannot expand vocabulary without forgetting words sometimes. Growth demands temporary discomfort. Adults often protect themselves emotionally by avoiding situations where mistakes might happen. Unfortunately, avoidance also protects fear from being challenged. Do not allow shame to silence your future. Every confident English speaker once sounded uncertain. Every fluent person once misunderstood conversations. The difference is, they continued anyway. Your mistakes do not make you foolish. They make you human and actively learning. Lesson 28. Building confidence. Through routine. Motivation feels powerful, but routines create long-term transformation. Adults who improve steadily usually build simple habits they can repeat consistently. Complex study plans often fail because real life becomes busy unexpectedly. Simple routines survive difficult schedules more effectively. Trevor once created an intense study plan filled with grammar exercises, vocabulary lists, and long reading assignments. For 1 week, he felt highly motivated. Then work became stressful. Soon the entire plan collapsed. Trevor felt discouraged until he changed his strategy completely. Instead of trying to study perfectly, he created small daily routines. 10 minutes of listening during breakfast, 5 new words before bed, short speaking practice while driving, reading 1 page every evening. Those habits seemed small, but they continued consistently for months. Slowly, Trevor's English improved more than during his earlier intense periods. Why? Because consistency teaches the brain more effectively than occasional emotional bursts. Adults often underestimate the power of ordinary repetition. Tiny actions repeated daily become life-changing over time. Do not focus only on dramatic progress. Focus on building routines your future self can maintain. A simple habit performed for 1 year creates more growth than impossible goals abandoned after 2 weeks. Language learning is less about perfection and more about rhythm. And strong rhythm keeps moving forward even during difficult seasons. Lesson 29. Understanding fast American speech. Many adult learners become discouraged when native speakers talk quickly. Even students with strong vocabulary often struggle understanding natural conversation speed. This frustration is extremely common. American English changes sounds during fast speech. Words connect together. Certain sounds disappear softly. Sentences flow differently than textbook examples. Melanie felt confident while reading English slowly. But real conversations still overwhelmed her. She wondered why listening remained difficult despite months of study. Then a teacher explained something important. Native speakers rarely pronounce every word perfectly in everyday conversation. That realization changed Melanie's listening strategy. Instead of trying to hear every single word, she began listening for patterns, emotions, and key ideas. Slowly, comprehension improved. Understanding fast English is similar to learning music. At first, everything sounds blended together. But repeated exposure trains the ears to recognize familiar rhythms. Do not panic when conversations move quickly. Even native speakers sometimes ask people to repeat themselves. Listening improves gradually through patience and repetition. Watch simple interviews. Replay short conversations. Listen actively but calmly. Your ears are learning even when understanding feels incomplete. One day, speech that once sounded impossible will begin sounding familiar. Not because conversation slowed down, because your listening strength increased. And stronger listening creates stronger confidence everywhere else. Lesson 30. English opens emotional doors. Language does more than help people survive daily situations. Language opens emotional doors. When adults gain confidence in English, they often discover new parts of themselves. Humor returns. Curiosity expands. Friendships become easier. Isolation decreases. Benjamin experienced this after years of avoiding social events because conversations exhausted him emotionally. He attended gatherings physically, but mentally he stayed distant. One summer evening, neighbors invited him to a small barbecue. Normally, Benjamin would stay quiet politely, but this time he participated more. He shared stories. He asked questions. He laughed naturally. Driving home later, Benjamin realized something important. English had stopped being only a survival tool. It had become part of his social life. That emotional transition matters deeply. Human beings are designed for connection. When language barriers decrease, life often feels larger and warmer. You may notice yourself becoming more relaxed in public spaces, more willing to participate, more open to opportunity. These emotional changes are just as valuable as vocabulary growth. Never underestimate how deeply communication affects confidence. Every new sentence you learn expands your ability to share your real personality with the world around you. And every shared conversation reminds you that your voice deserves space in this world. Lesson 31. Learning through real life. Some adults believe learning only happens inside classrooms. But real life itself can become one of the greatest teachers. Every store visit, every phone call, every conversation, every sign. These ordinary experiences contain opportunities for growth. Claire worked at a restaurant where English surrounded her constantly. At first, the fast environment terrified her. Customers spoke quickly, co-workers used slang, and instructions changed rapidly. Many nights, Claire returned home feeling mentally exhausted. But over time, repeated exposure strengthened her naturally. Without realizing it fully, she learned phrases connected to real situations. How can I help you? Give me one moment. Would you like anything else? Because these expressions carried emotional and practical meaning, her brain remembered them more easily. Adults often learn effectively when language connects directly to daily experiences. Real-life learning feels messy sometimes, but it creates powerful memory. Do not underestimate ordinary interactions. If a cashier asks you a question, answer confidently. If someone starts conversation, try participating. Real life may feel uncomfortable occasionally, but discomfort often becomes excellent practice. Your environment contains more lessons than any textbook alone could provide. The world around you is already speaking English every day. Little by little, you are learning to join the conversation. Lesson 32. You are allowed to begin again. Many adults stop learning English temporarily because life becomes overwhelming. Work pressures increase. Family responsibilities grow. Health challenges appear. Then guilt arrives. Some learners disappear from practice for months or even years and begin believing they failed permanently. But you are always allowed to begin again. Henry studied English enthusiastically for nearly a year before financial difficulties forced him to work longer hours. Slowly, his study habits disappeared completely. 2 years passed. One evening, Henry found his old English notebook while cleaning his apartment. Looking through the pages brought mixed emotions: regret, embarrassment, hope. For several days he debated whether restarting made sense. Then he realized something powerful. The dream had never truly disappeared. It had only become quiet. Henry began practicing again slowly. Surprisingly, much of the old knowledge returned faster than expected. The human brain remembers more than you think. Adults sometimes believe interruptions erase progress completely. That is not true. Even if your journey paused, your experience still matters. Do not waste years punishing yourself emotionally for stopping temporarily. Life becomes difficult sometimes. What matters most is your willingness to continue moving forward now. A delayed dream is not the same as a dead dream. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience. And experience gives second beginnings powerful strength. Lesson 33. The importance of speaking out loud. Many adults study English silently for long periods. They read vocabulary, watch videos, and memorize grammar mentally. But speaking requires physical training too. Your mouth must learn new movements. Your tongue must practice unfamiliar sounds. Your ears must connect with your voice. Speaking out loud matters enormously. Jasmine understood this after months of silent study produced limited speaking improvement. She knew many English words, but conversation still felt difficult. One teacher gave her simple advice: use your voice every day. At first, Jasmine felt awkward speaking aloud alone in her apartment. But she continued anyway. She repeated sentences from movies. She described daily activities. She practiced questions and answers. Slowly, pronunciation became smoother. Speaking felt slightly less frightening because her mouth gained experience. Language is physical. The muscles involved in speech require repetition just like any other skill. Do not wait until you feel completely ready before practicing aloud. Read short passages. Repeat conversations. Record yourself sometimes. The goal is not sounding perfect immediately. The goal is becoming more comfortable using your voice. Every spoken sentence builds confidence little by little. And every moment your voice enters the world in English, fear loses a little more control over your future. Lesson 34. Small victories deserve celebration. Adults often move through life so quickly that they forget to celebrate progress. They focus constantly on what still needs improvement. But recognizing small victories strengthens motivation. Emily once believed her English remained terrible because she still made mistakes regularly. One day her teacher asked a surprising question. Do you remember when introducing yourself felt difficult? Emily paused. She had forgotten completely. Months earlier, even basic conversations created panic. Now she handled introductions naturally without fear. That realization changed her perspective. Progress becomes easier to see when you remember where you started. Celebrate understanding one more sentence. Celebrate ordering food confidently. Celebrate surviving difficult conversations. Celebrate asking questions without panic. These moments matter deeply. Human motivation grows stronger when effort feels meaningful. If you ignore every improvement while focusing only on remaining weaknesses, discouragement increases unnecessarily. Language learning is a long journey. Long journeys require encouragement along the way. You do not need to wait for complete fluency before feeling proud. Pride can exist inside progress itself. Every step forward proves something important. You are changing, maybe slowly, maybe imperfectly, but undeniably, and that deserves recognition. Lesson 35, the voice. You once imagined. At some point during this journey, you may hear yourself speaking English and feel surprised. Not because you sound perfect, but because you sound possible. Years earlier, fluent conversations may have seemed unreachable. Yet slowly your voice begins carrying thoughts that once stayed trapped silently inside your mind. Anthony experienced this while helping a new employee at work. The employee struggled understanding instructions, so Anthony explained patiently in English. Several minutes later, Anthony realized something emotional. He had become the person offering help instead of always needing help. That moment stayed with him for days. Growth changes identity gradually. The frightened learner eventually becomes the encouraging learner. The silent listener eventually becomes the active speaker. The person once afraid of mistakes eventually survives them calmly. This transformation rarely happens suddenly. It grows through repetition, courage, frustration, patience, and continued effort. Some adults abandon their journey too early because they cannot yet see the future version of themselves. But that future version already begins forming every time you continue. Your voice matters. Your dreams matter. Your effort matters. And somewhere ahead waits a version of you who speaks more freely, participates more confidently, and lives more openly because you refuse to quit during difficult seasons. Keep moving toward that person. They are already becoming real. Lesson 36. The moment fear stops leading. Fear does not disappear completely for most adult learners. Even advanced speakers sometimes feel nervous in difficult conversations, interviews, or unfamiliar situations. But something important changes over time. Fear stops leading. Melissa noticed this during a doctor's appointment. Years earlier, situations like this created intense anxiety because she worried about misunderstanding important information. But this time, she asked questions confidently. She listened carefully. She answered naturally. Walking home afterward, Melissa realized something powerful. The fear was still present slightly, but it no longer controlled her actions. That shift represents enormous emotional growth. Courage is not becoming fearless. Courage is moving forward while fear slowly loses authority over your decisions. Many adults wait for complete confidence before participating more actively in life. Unfortunately, complete confidence rarely arrives first. Action creates confidence. Repeated experience weakens panic. Every time you survive a difficult conversation, your brain learns something new. You can handle this. Little by little, situations that once felt terrifying become manageable. Phone calls become easier. Public conversations feel less stressful. Questions become less frightening. This transformation may feel gradual, but it changes everyday life deeply. One day you suddenly realize you are participating instead of hiding. And participation creates freedom. Lesson 37. Learning English in busy cities. Big cities can feel exciting and overwhelming at the same time. For adult learners, city life often creates nonstop exposure to English. Fast conversations, crowded transportation, busy workplaces, constant interaction. At first, this environment may feel exhausting. Samantha moved into a crowded city neighborhood where English surrounded her every hour of the day. She heard conversations in stores, buses, restaurants, elevators, and sidewalks. During her first months, she felt mentally tired constantly. Everything moved quickly. People spoke quickly. Life itself moved quickly. But gradually, Samantha discovered an advantage hidden inside the chaos. The city itself became her classroom. Every day provided listening practice naturally. Every interaction became experience. Instead of avoiding communication completely, Samantha began treating ordinary moments as opportunities. She ordered coffee confidently. She asked strangers simple questions. She listened carefully during train rides. Over time, the city stopped feeling like pressure and started feeling like practice. Busy environments can strengthen language ability rapidly when learners remain open instead of emotionally shutting down. You do not need perfect conditions to improve. Sometimes improvement grows inside noisy, stressful, ordinary life. The world around you is already teaching constantly. Your job is simply to continue participating instead of retreating from every uncomfortable moment. Because confidence grows faster through involvement than avoidance. Lesson 38. Why patience matters so much. Adults often become impatient with themselves while learning English. They want quick results because life already feels busy and demanding. But language learning follows human timing, not emotional urgency. Isaac struggled with this deeply. After several months of studying, he expected himself to speak fluently already. Whenever he forgot words or misunderstood conversations, frustration exploded quickly. One evening, his grandfather shared simple advice. Trees grow slowly, but they still become strong. Those words stayed with Isaac. Many valuable things in life require gradual development. Trust, strength, relationships, confidence, language. Adults sometimes damage motivation by expecting impossible speed from themselves. They treat normal learning struggles like personal failure. But struggling occasionally is part of the process. Your brain needs repetition. Your ears need exposure. Your mouth needs practice. These things cannot be rushed aggressively. Patience does not mean doing nothing. Patience means continuing effort without demanding instant perfection. The adults who succeed long-term usually learn how to stay calm during slower seasons. They understand temporary frustration does not predict permanent failure. If growth feels slower than expected, do not panic. Keep listening. Keep speaking. Keep reading. Your future fluency is being built quietly even now. And quiet growth often becomes the strongest kind. Lesson 39. The importance of encouraging yourself. Many adults speak to themselves more harshly than they would ever speak to another person. After mistakes, they think, "My English is terrible. I sound stupid. I will never improve." These thoughts damage confidence deeply. Nathan realized this after recording himself practicing English. Instead of noticing improvement, he focused only on pronunciation mistakes. For several minutes, he criticized himself mentally. Then he imagined something different. What if a friend showed the same recording while learning courageously? Would he insult that friend? Of course not. He would encourage them. Adults often forget that self-encouragement matters during difficult learning journeys. Your inner voice influences motivation strongly. If every practice session becomes emotional punishment, continuing becomes harder unnecessarily. Encouragement does not mean pretending mistakes do not exist. It means recognizing progress honestly while continuing improvement patiently. Speak to yourself like someone worth helping, because you are. Language learning already contains enough difficulty without adding constant self-criticism. Every learner struggles. Every learner feels frustrated sometimes. What matters is refusing to turn temporary weakness into permanent identity. You are not bad at English. You are learning English. Those are completely different realities. And the way you speak to yourself during hard seasons may determine whether you continue long enough to succeed. Lesson 40. English creates new opportunities. Sometimes adults begin learning English for emotional reasons, but eventually practical opportunities begin appearing too. Better jobs, new friendships, education, travel, leadership. Opportunity often grows quietly beside language improvement. Christine worked in a factory for years while studying English at night. She originally wanted only enough confidence to handle everyday conversations. But after her communication improved, supervisors noticed her effort and reliability more clearly. One afternoon, her manager asked if she would consider training for a leadership position. Christine felt shocked. Years earlier, she could barely participate during workplace discussions. Now new possibilities stood in front of her. Language changes access. When communication barriers decrease, opportunities become easier to reach. This does not mean life suddenly becomes perfect. Challenges still exist. But stronger English can open doors previously hidden behind fear or limitation. Adults sometimes underestimate how much confidence influences opportunity. People who communicate more comfortably often participate more actively. They ask more questions. They apply for more positions. They connect with more people. Your English journey may eventually lead somewhere you cannot fully imagine yet. That is why persistence matters. The effort you make today may create opportunities years from now. And many life-changing opportunities begin with one brave decision to keep learning despite difficulty. Lesson 41. Listening to your own progress. Many adults notice improvement more easily in reading than speaking. Reading provides visible proof. Speaking feels harder to measure. But your voice changes over time more than you realize. George discovered this accidentally after finding old recordings from his first year studying English. Curious, he listened carefully. The difference shocked him. His old voice sounded hesitant, slow, fearful. His newer recordings sounded calmer and more natural. The transformation had happened gradually, so he never noticed clearly until hearing the contrast directly. Progress often hides inside familiarity. Because you hear yourself every day, changes become difficult to recognize. That is why documenting your journey sometimes helps emotionally. Keep notes. Record short conversations. Save writing samples. Months later, you may discover growth you completely overlooked. Adults often feel discouraged because they focus only on future goals instead of current improvement. But noticing progress creates motivation. You deserve to recognize how far you have already traveled. Every practice session leaves traces inside your speech patterns. Every conversation strengthens your confidence slightly. Even if growth feels invisible today, Your future self may one day listen backward and realize just how dramatically your voice evolved. And that realization can become deeply emotional. Lesson 42. Why community matters. Learning English alone can feel isolating sometimes. Adults already carry busy lives, and many learners feel emotionally separated from others during the process. That is why supportive community matters deeply. Community reminds learners they are not struggling alone. Olga joined a small weekly English conversation group at her local library. During her first visit, she felt nervous immediately. But something surprised her. Everyone there carried similar fears. Some struggled with pronunciation, others forgot vocabulary, others spoke slowly. Yet the atmosphere remained supportive instead of judgmental. For the first time, Olga felt emotionally safe while practicing English. That experience changed her confidence dramatically. Humans learn better when they feel encouraged instead of ashamed. Supportive environments allow learners to take risks without fear of humiliation. If possible, connect with others who are also growing. Practice conversations, share frustrations, celebrate victories together. Even one encouraging person can make difficult seasons easier to survive. Adults sometimes believe independence means handling everything alone. But healthy support strengthens endurance. Language learning becomes less frightening when people remind each other, "You are improving. You can do this. Keep going." And sometimes those simple words arrive exactly when someone needs them most. Lesson 43. The beauty of understanding humor. One special milestone in language learning arrives when humor finally begins making sense naturally. Jokes, sarcasm, funny timing, playful conversations. These moments feel meaningful because humor requires deeper understanding beyond basic vocabulary. Daniela experienced this while working with coworkers during lunch break. Someone made a quick joke, and before translating mentally, she laughed immediately. Then she paused. She realized she'd understood the humor instinctively. That moment felt surprisingly emotional. Humor creates belonging. When adults begin understanding jokes naturally, conversations feel warmer and more human. Language stops feeling mechanical. It begins feeling alive. This type of understanding develops slowly through listening and exposure to natural conversation patterns. Do not feel discouraged if humor confuses you sometimes. Even native speakers misunderstand jokes occasionally. Keep listening. Keep observing. Over time, your brain will recognize emotional patterns more easily. And one day, laughter may arrive before translation. That moment reveals something beautiful. English is no longer existing only inside textbooks. It is becoming part of your real emotional experience. And emotional connection always strengthens language more deeply than memorization alone. Lesson 44. Your accent carries your story. Some adults spend years feeling ashamed of sounding different. They apologize for their accent before speaking. They avoid conversations because insecurity feels overwhelming. But your accent carries history. It carries geography. It carries experience. It carries survival. Farah struggled with this for years. Every time someone asked where she came from, embarrassment appeared immediately. Then one day, a customer told her something unexpected. "I like your accent. It sounds unique." That simple sentence changed Farah's perspective. Millions of Americans speak English with accents from around the world. Communication matters more than perfection. Yes, improving pronunciation for clarity is valuable. But hating your voice while learning creates unnecessary pain. Your goal is connection, not imitation. Adults sometimes believe fluency means sounding identical to native speakers. In reality, fluency means expressing yourself comfortably and clearly. Your voice deserves respect exactly because it represents your journey. Speak clearly. Speak patiently. Speak proudly. Every time you continue despite insecurity, you teach yourself an important lesson. Your voice belongs in conversations too. And the world becomes richer when different voices participate openly instead of hiding silently. Lesson 45. The future is listening. Right now, somewhere in the future, another version of you exists. That future version understands more, speaks more confidently, feels less afraid, participates more fully. The question is not whether that future is possible. The question is whether you will continue walking toward it. Luis thought about quitting many times during his journey. Some weeks felt exhausting emotionally. Progress seemed slow. Responsibilities felt heavy. But every time he considered giving up, one thought returned. What happens if I keep going? Years later, Luis answered that question himself. He held conversations comfortably. He helped newer learners. He traveled confidently. He no longer felt trapped inside silence. Transformation rarely feels dramatic while it is happening. Most change occurs quietly through repeated effort over long periods. One sentence, one conversation, one brave moment at a time. Your future is being shaped by the decisions you make today. Every day you continue practicing, listening, speaking, and trying again. You move closer to the voice you once imagined impossible. Do not underestimate the power of steady effort. The future is listening carefully to the choices you make right now. And your future self may one day thank you for refusing to quit during the difficult chapters. Because difficult chapters are not the end of the story. They are often where the strongest transformations begin. Lesson 46. One conversation can change everything. Sometimes adults imagine success as a giant moment filled with applause and dramatic celebration. But many life-changing moments arrive quietly. One conversation, one opportunity, one decision to speak instead of staying silent. Caleb experienced this during a community job fair downtown. He almost stayed home that morning because insecurity still whispered inside him. What if your English is not good enough? But Caleb went anyway. At first, he walked through the event nervously, collecting brochures silently. Then a company representative smiled warmly and started asking questions. Normally, Caleb would answer briefly, but this time, he stayed in the conversation. He explained his experience. He asked thoughtful questions. He listened carefully and responded naturally. Several weeks later, that conversation led to a new job opportunity. The most emotional part was not the job itself. It was realizing English no longer blocked him from participating. Language ability changes what becomes possible. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily. Every conversation you practice today may prepare you for opportunities tomorrow that you cannot yet imagine. That is why continuing matters. Your courage during ordinary moments may quietly shape extraordinary futures. And often, the difference between staying trapped and moving forward begins with one brave conversation. Lesson 47. The strength hidden inside repetition. Adults sometimes become bored repeating simple English exercises. They want constant excitement and fast progress. But repetition creates mastery. Athletes repeat movements, musicians repeat scales, pilots repeat training, Language learners repeat sentences. Repetition strengthens memory until communication becomes more automatic. Vanessa struggled with this during her first year learning English. She constantly searched for new study methods because repeating old material felt too simple. Yet despite working hard, her speaking confidence improved slowly. Then a teacher encouraged her to revisit familiar conversations repeatedly. At first, Vanessa resisted, but eventually she noticed something important. The more she repeated certain sentence patterns, the faster and smoother her speaking became. Confidence grows when the brain recognizes familiar structures quickly. Repetition is not proof that you are failing. It is proof that your brain is strengthening connections. Do not feel embarrassed reviewing basic material. Strong foundations support fluent communication later. Every repeated phrase trains your ears. Every repeated sentence trains your mouth. Every repeated listening exercise strengthens comprehension. Growth often feels ordinary while it is happening. But ordinary repetition performed consistently creates extraordinary long-term results. The learners who eventually sound natural usually spent years practicing simple things patiently. And patience transforms repetition into power. Lesson 48. Your story still matters. Some adults hesitate to speak because they believe their lives are too ordinary or unimportant. But every person carries stories worth telling. Your childhood, your struggles, your victories, your family, your dreams. English simply gives you another way to share those experiences. Grace realized this during an English conversation class where students discussed personal memories. At first, she worried her vocabulary was too limited. But when she began describing her grandmother's cooking and family traditions, something beautiful happened. People listened carefully. They smiled. They asked questions. Her imperfect English still carried emotion. That moment reminded Grace that communication is not only about grammar. It is about humanity. Adults sometimes focus so heavily on mistakes that they forget the real purpose of language. Connection. Your voice does not need perfection to matter. Your experiences already contain value. As your English grows stronger, more of your personality becomes visible to the world around you. People begin hearing your humor, your kindness, your wisdom, your perspective. Never believe silence is safer than expression forever. The world loses something valuable when people hide their stories permanently. And every time you choose to speak despite insecurity, you allow another piece of your real self to step into the light. Lesson 49. Learning English changes more than language. At first, many adults believe they are simply learning vocabulary and grammar. But over time, deeper changes begin appearing. Confidence changes. Identity changes. Daily habits change. The way you see yourself changes. Evelyn noticed this one morning while helping a stranger at a train station. Years earlier, situations involving English created panic immediately. Now she responded calmly and naturally. Afterward, she realized something surprising. Her entire relationship with fear had changed. Language learning had strengthened more than communication. It had strengthened resilience. Adults who continue learning through frustration develop emotional endurance. They learn patience with themselves. They become more comfortable making mistakes publicly. These lessons affect life beyond English. Growth in one area often creates courage in other areas too. That is why your journey matters more deeply than you may realize right now. You are not only memorizing words, you are training yourself to continue despite discomfort. You are proving that change remains possible even in adulthood. That realization can become life-changing. Many adults secretly fear it is too late for growth, too late for dreams, too late for confidence, too late for transformation. But every new sentence you learn quietly argues against that fear. And over time, your own progress becomes proof that human beings can continue evolving far longer than they sometimes believe. Lesson 50. The courage to keep going. There will still be difficult days ahead. Some conversations will confuse you. Some words will disappear from memory. Some moments will feel frustrating. But none of those moments erase your progress. Oliver understood this after an exhausting work week where everything seemed difficult. He misunderstood co-workers several times and struggled expressing ideas clearly. By Friday night, discouragement filled his mind. For a moment, he wondered whether continuing even mattered anymore. Then he remembered something important. Growth is not measured by one bad day. No athlete judges their entire future from one difficult practice. No musician quits because of one imperfect performance. Language learning also contains difficult seasons. What matters most is your willingness to continue through them. The adults who eventually become confident English speakers are usually not people who avoided frustration completely. They are people who kept returning after frustration. Persistence creates transformation, even slow persistence, even imperfect persistence. Every time you continue after discouragement, you build emotional strength alongside language ability. That strength becomes part of your future voice. So when difficult days arrive, do not immediately assume you are failing. Sometimes difficult days are simply evidence that you are still growing, and growing people often feel uncomfortable before they become stronger. Lesson 51. The world begins feeling larger. As English becomes more familiar, many adults notice another beautiful change. The world begins feeling larger. Books become accessible, movies become clearer. Travel feels less intimidating. Conversations open unexpected doors. Knowledge expands. Harper realized this during a late-night documentary she watched online. Months earlier, she would have depended entirely on subtitles. But now she understood most of the discussion naturally. Suddenly, new information, stories, and perspectives felt reachable. Language expands access. Every new phrase you learn increases your ability to connect with ideas beyond your previous limits. This emotional freedom matters deeply. Adults who once felt isolated by language barriers often describe fluency as gaining a larger life. Not because their personality changes, because their access changes. English allows participation in conversations, opportunities, entertainment, education, and relationships that once felt distant. That expansion can feel incredibly empowering. Your world does not become larger in one dramatic moment. It grows sentence by sentence, conversation by conversation, day by day. And one morning, you suddenly realize life feels more open than before. That openness is one of the greatest rewards waiting on the other side of persistence. Lesson 52. Becoming the example for others. One powerful moment arrives when newer learners begin looking at you for encouragement. At first, this may feel surprising. You still remember your own fears so clearly. But growth changes perspective. Marcus experienced this at work when a new employee from another country arrived, feeling nervous about speaking English. The young man apologized constantly for mistakes. Marcus smiled because he recognized the same fear he once carried. Instead of judging him, Marcus encouraged him patiently. "Keep speaking," he said. "You will improve." Driving home later, Marcus realized something emotional. Years earlier, he desperately needed encouragement himself. Now he was offering it to someone else. Your journey may eventually inspire people around you more than you realize. Children notice. Co-workers notice. Friends notice. People observe courage quietly. Every adult who continues learning despite difficulty sends an important message. Growth is still possible. You do not need perfection to become valuable encouragement for others. Sometimes simply continuing openly becomes inspiration. One day another learner may look at your progress and think, "If they can do it, maybe I can too." That possibility carries tremendous power, and it all begins with ordinary people refusing to give up on themselves. Lesson 53. English and personal freedom. Freedom means different things to different people. For some adults, freedom means traveling confidently. For others, it means speaking without fear during emergencies. For many learners, freedom simply means expressing thoughts without depending completely on someone else. Language creates independence. Bianca understood this deeply after attending an important appointment alone for the first time. Previously, she always depended on relatives to help translate difficult conversations. But this time, she handled everything herself. Questions, answers, paperwork, discussion. Walking outside afterward, Bianca felt emotional. Not because the appointment was extraordinary, because independence felt extraordinary. Adults often underestimate how emotionally powerful self-expression can become after years of limitation. Every improvement in English creates more freedom inside everyday life. Freedom to ask questions. Freedom to understand information. Freedom to participate confidently. Freedom to be fully present. That freedom is worth fighting for patiently. Some days the journey may feel exhausting, but remember what you are truly building. Not only vocabulary, not only pronunciation. You are building a life with fewer barriers between your mind and the world around you. And that kind of freedom changes how people walk through life itself. Lesson 54. It was never too late. Many adults spend years believing they missed their chance. Too old, too busy, too tired, too far behind. But your journey proves something powerful. It was never too late. Sophia began learning English seriously at 47 years old. For a long time, she believed improvement belonged only to younger people. Yet slowly, month after month, her confidence changed. She spoke more. She understood more. She feared less. One evening, while talking with friends, Sophia suddenly realized something beautiful. The dream she once considered impossible was already becoming reality. Not perfectly, but genuinely. Adults often underestimate the human ability to grow throughout life. The brain continues adapting. The heart continues hoping. The voice continues developing. As long as you continue practicing, possibility remains alive. Do not allow society, fear, or comparison to convince you that growth belongs only to younger people. Human beings are capable of transformation at every stage of life. Your age does not cancel your potential. Your responsibilities do not erase your dreams. Your past struggles do not define your future permanently. The moment you decide to continue learning, a new chapter begins. And sometimes, the most meaningful chapters arrive later than expected. Lesson 55. Your voice belongs in this world tonight. After this long journey together, one truth remains stronger than every fear you once carried. Your voice belongs in this world. Not only when your grammar becomes perfect, not only when your accent changes, not only after complete fluency arrives. Right now, your voice deserves space. Think about everything you have already survived. Long workdays, responsibilities, self-doubt, embarrassing moments, fearful conversations, exhaustion. Yet despite all of it, you continued. That matters. Somewhere along this journey, you became stronger than the silence that once controlled you. Maybe progress still feels unfinished. Maybe fear still appears sometimes. That is okay. Growth is rarely perfect. But you are no longer the same person who believed change was impossible. Now you understand something deeper. Confidence grows through action. Courage grows through repetition. Fluency grows through persistence. And hope grows every time a person refuses to quit. Years from now, you may look back at this season of your life and realize these difficult days were not holding you back. They were building you, building your patience, building your resilience, building your future voice. So keep speaking, keep listening, keep trying, keep believing, because it is never too late to start. And somewhere ahead, another version of you is already speaking with confidence, smiling during conversations, and living more freely because you made one brave decision. You decided not to give up. And that decision may change your entire life.